Hi, it's me, and it's you, obviously. I'm pretty sure it's you. I hope it's you. It's pretty crazy out there. This is sort of an interesting time to be alive. And I've kind of had some thoughts kind of bubbling away in the back of my head, front of my head, side of my head. And I just wanted to chat with you and kind of express some of the stuff that I've been thinking about. It might not be useful. It might just be me ranting and waffling on, and so be it, frankly. But I kind of have some keywords that I wrote down on some little post-it notes here that are kind of the key beats of what I wanted to chat through. I don't know any more than that, but I'll talk and we'll see where it goes, and if it happens to be useful, great. If it just takes up 5 minutes of your day while you're self-isolating, then that's cool too. So the first thing I wrote down was uncertainty. And I mean, to show my remarkable grasp of the obvious, you know, these are uncertain times. None of us know what's going to happen. There are trends and there are facts and figures and there's science, and that's all great. But for us personally, it's incredibly uncertain, you know, from our own health to the health of the people we care about, to our jobs and our incomes, and whether we can keep a roof over our heads, whether we can go and get food in the supermarket. Everything's really uncertain. We haven't been here before, you know, we haven't done this before. If we had, we'd know what to do. And so at every kind of juncture, there's this big question about, how do we do this? What am I supposed to do now? How am I supposed to react? How do I take care of the people around me? How do I take care of myself when everything is up in the air? It's crazy. And that kind of uncertainty, it's entirely natural and appropriate to respond to that with things like anxiety and worry and fear. That's entirely okay, right? It's to respond to that degree of uncertainty without any of those things, without anxiety or worry or fear. I don't know, that's numbing. You've kind of switched off at that point, right? So I guess that's the first thing, is there's a lot of anxiety and worry and fear going around, and in response to the level of unknown, and the way that our brains are wired, our brains scramble for certainty and scramble for something to rely on. Our brains hate uncertainty and hate risk. So our brains will be just scrambling for solid ground right now. And if it can't find any, that's where anxiety and worry and fear bubble up, and they start rolling around like a bubbling stew. Which kind of then leads me on to the second thing that I wrote down, searching, right? Our brains need to find answers. And our brains are kind of wired in with two key motives. First, to minimize risk, and second, to maximize reward. So our brains want to minimize risk at every opportunity. If it sniffs the merest scent of risk or uncertainty, it will look to shut that shit down. You know, it hates that, because that's where you might get eaten by the tiger, right? And then maximizing reward, often that can be as simple as safety, right? If you're safe, that's reward enough. That's plenty of reward as far as your brain is concerned. So given the level of uncertainty out there, it's natural to go searching for answers. Like, how can I keep myself safe? How can I keep the people I care about safe? How can I make sure I've got money coming in? There are all these questions that we're looking for answers to, and answers are really hard to come by right now. And our governments, our politicians, our leaders are trying to give some of those answers. And it's great that we're getting responses, and we're getting some solutions, I guess. And I'm not going to go into the whole political thing, because that's a whole other rant that would take me in a different direction and another couple of hours, I think. But in the face of this amount of uncertainty, it's okay that you're looking for solidity. And in the pursuit of doing that, there's so much misinformation out there. Again, some from our leaders and our politicians, others from lobby groups or just nut jobs or conspiracy theorists, people who have an agenda. There's a lot of misinformation. Even the thing that was going around recently about dolphins and fish returning to the canals in Venice, it's been debunked. That really doesn't help the situation. That just fuels more uncertainty. Like, what do I trust? Where can I go for solidity? And related to that, I've even seen a couple of authors that I kind of have seen around for a few years, and I've seen people market their products off the back of coronavirus to say, hey, things are uncertain, money's uncertain, everything's it kind of on the back of people's anxiety and worry and fear, using that as an opportunity to sell their own shit. And I don't agree with that. I think that's kind of detestable in some ways. And it's not just that, what they're selling might help people and might be some of the answers that people are looking for. But to craft web copy in such a way that it hooks people on their anxiety, worry, and fear, and then sells them a solution purely off the back of coronavirus, that's opportunistic in the extreme. And I kind of think, if you've got something that you believe will help people find answers, or help people find solutions, or help people navigate through this, given the level of uncertainty, just give that shit away. Don't look to make a fast buck off the back of it. Find a way to get it into the hands of the people who need it. It's disheartening to see that level of selfish capitalism, I guess. So yeah, be careful what you're finding when you're searching for answers, right? It's extremely unlikely that there's a quick fix or a neat way through this. So be careful about what you lean into and what you trust, your sources of information. Be selective about what you take in. And that kind of comes on to the third thing that I wrote down, which is about rest, which is, with things shutting down and lockdown and self-isolation, it's kind of a period of rest for a lot of people. And I don't mean rest like just kicking back, with a book and chilling out, or Netflix binging, or, whatever it might be, because there are pockets of society who are not able to rest. Those people on the front line, the nurses, doctors, the cashiers, the lorry drivers, all of those guys are not getting any rest at all. But I mean rest in a broader sense, that it's an opportunity for us to rest into what's happening and not tense up in the face of it. If your response to this thing, to this pandemic, is to just be white knuckles, that's just going to be a horrible experience, and not to mention just the physiological impact that's going to have on you, right? That's going to drive stress in your body, and it's not going to help that bubbling stew of thought. So rest is kind of just about being able to step back a little bit from the detail and the drama, and maybe that's about perspective, or maybe that's about looking more broadly at what's happening and looking, kind of resting into the situation you're in, right? If it's scary as hell, kind of, and it sounds counterintuitive, I know, but it's kind of like just being at ease with that, not struggling against that, or not wanting to fight it necessarily, because that's just creating friction. You know, if you butt up against it, if you just continually bash up against this thing, which is fairly immovable, you know, that level of uncertainty, if you just continually bash your face against it, you're going to end up with a bloody nose. But if you just rest into it, it becomes easier, right? It becomes a little slower. You don't look at the drama and get wrapped up in layers of the detail. So something about ease and letting it be how it is. And God, this sounds trite and fluffy, and I hate that bullshit. I really do. But this is kind of some of the thinking that's been going through my head. You can't fight this by purely being strong. I mean, it's great to be strong in the face of a crisis, or you know, a personal situation that's challenging. Great. But I think more importantly, and in the work I've done with confidence, you know, it's more about finding a core of peace, actually, and resting there, rather than tensing and being strong. And part of this, you know, if you are self-isolating, or if you are kind of taking your foot off the pedal, there's an opportunity to kind of spend some time, right? Spend some time with how your brain is doing, spend some time with whatever that anxiety and worry and fear is, spend some time just resting into what's going on. I think it's a healthy thing to do, even if your natural inclination would be to push those things away, or you know, shove them in a box and lock the lid and put it to the back of the cupboard. Don't, just rest and spend some time with that stuff, because you're going to have to process this. You know, this is huge, and there's a lot of emotion bubbling away, and if you do lock that shit up, it's going to come and bite you. So you do have to spend some time with it, and be with it, and hang out with it, and welcome that stuff in. And so this, if you are having to take your foot off the pedal, it's an opportunity to do that, right? It's an opportunity to spend time with that stuff. And that's the thing on my last post-it note, opportunity. And again, I really don't want to be trite or fluffy, or you know, all those other just horrible crystal healing kind of tree hugging stuff, which isn't my bag at all. But having said that, I mean, this could be a time to do a bit of a reset, right? If things are changing so significantly at a global level, you know, from people's careers to people having to prioritize, to people really kind of giving a shit about other people, which is hugely significant. You know, we've all been so close to our lives and close to the stuff going on in our lives for the last 5, 10, 20 years. It's sort of been all about the individual, you know, and this could be an opportunity for some kind of reset, right? It's potentially a massive opportunity for something to shift, either at a personal level for you and for me, and I'm kind of asking myself some of this stuff. But also, you know, it could be a some kind of opportunity at the societal level or governmental level, or at the, you know, even in terms of the capitalist system, or, you know, whatever else. It's potentially an opportunity for systemic reset. And that reset is about focusing back on what matters, right? Because it's stuff like this, stuff like coronavirus, where it does kind of make you focus on what matters and who matters. You know, so what is it that gets you up in the morning when there isn't work to go to, or when you can't go and hang with your friends and grab a beer and you know, do all those things that you would normally do out of habit, or out of just, you know, that's how you live, that's how you do things, out of routine, or out of familiarity, or out of comfort, or sometimes out of numbing as well, you know, having that glass of wine on a Friday evening. So this change, it's an opportunity to really look at what matters, what really matters. And that could be about, you know, trying to see what there's been in your life, what's been occupying your time and your focus and your energy and your priorities that shouldn't have been doing that, right? How have you been spending your time? How have you been spending that energy? How have you been spending that focus? And how does that fit with you? How does that sit with you? And those are good questions to ask. And this is maybe a perfect opportunity to do that, to do some digging, to see what the golden threads are that are kind of woven through you, that might shift your focus, or show you what might be next for you, or show you where you know, my focus has been over here, but oh my God, this is where I should have been looking. That's a massive opportunity. And if you multiply that by, you know, 7 billion people, that's extraordinary. You know, that's something that gives me kind of goosebumps. And part of that, looking at what matters, is then about alignment, right? This is kind of about just going back to an alignment of what matters to you, of who you are, of those building blocks, those foundations and those cornerstones for what makes you you, and aligning around those things. You know, there's a congruence or a flow or a fit that comes with that stuff. So explore what matters and align around that, make some choices, you know. And this isn't, again, I don't want to be preachy or pious or self-righteous or somber about it. This is just me thinking out loud, really. And you know, it's then about resolving to make whatever changes feel appropriate. And that could be just about, you know, helping to support someone else, right, through this. It's as simple and as graceful as that. It could be about resolving to look at making changes on the other side of this. Whether that's professionally, personally, relationship-wise, you know, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about other people, how you feel about your body, you know, all of those things. You can start to reset, look at what matters, align around that stuff, and resolve to get behind those things and make those changes. And it's not a quick thing. You don't have to do that instantly. It can be a slow, gentle process. You know, you don't force that stuff. You can't force that stuff. But it's just this kind of gap that we've got now between the way we used to do things and the way we're doing things now. That gap is this, you know, there's a sliver of light through the door that we can try some stuff and ask some questions and see what we can shift. And yeah, I think that's kind of what I wanted to say. And you know, I think I don't know how to wrap this up with a bow. It's not a neat thing. There's the story of the girl on the beach with a starfish. I don't know if you know this, but the story goes that you know, the guy is walking along the beach, along the water's edge, and the water is kind of lapping in and out. You know, the waves coming down, and he walks along, and he suddenly sees on the beach there's just a whole load of starfish that have washed up, like hundreds and hundreds of these things just on the sand, just dying because they've been washed up, and the tide's gone out, and the water coming in and out isn't coming in enough to wash them back out into the sea, into the ocean. And he's just looking at all these starfish that are dying, and you know, 50 feet ahead he sees a woman just throwing these starfish back into the waves, back into the water. And he just continues up the beach and says, what are you doing? You know, he says incredulously, you can't possibly throw all these back in. You can't possibly make a difference here. And she picks up one starfish and throws it into the waves and says, you know, I made a difference to that one. And it's just I mean, it's a dumb story. And again, I'm not one for the fluffy stuff, but if this is an opportunity to reset and look at what matters and align and resolve, then I think supporting other people and looking at what you can do to build, what you can do to add value to someone else, add value to a community or an effort or a cause, or add value to something that matters to you, that's golden. I mean, that's just fucking phenomenal, frankly. And that's it. I'm kind of, yeah, you know, I don't have answers. I just have some thoughts and some questions. And that's the kind of stuff I'm going to be exploring. Anyhow, take care, and take care of those around you, and I'll see you soon.